Hello and welcome to DigFin VOX, Voices in Digital Finance. I'm your host, Jame DiBiasio. If you enjoy the program, please give us a like, and that's a knock-knock to the YouTube algorithm. My guest today is Val Yap, founder and CEO of PolicyPal, a Singapore-based insurtech. We talked about how the company has grown, her own recent acquisitions, growth strategy, trends for insurtechs, and of course, Val Yap is also writer of a memoir, and we talked about how her book has affected the lives of other entrepreneurs. Val Yap, absolute pleasure to have you on DigFin VOX. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
And I should also point out that we are both part of a bigger organization, so we're sort of cousins. Both of us are part of AMTD Digital. So this is the first time I think I've done an interview with somebody sort of in the wider group. So so this is a first and hopefully not a last, but great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to be under one big umbrella, the big brother, AMTD.
Brother, yeah. Okay, terrific. So, but you started PolicyPal before that, before they acquired you. So just tell us really briefly the mission that you've brought to the marketplace in Singapore and how things have evolved.
Yeah, definitely. So I started PolicyPal 6 years ago, 2016, with a mission to actually empower like individuals and also like small medium businesses to understand their insurance policies. And like we actually use AI technology to scan your existing insurance policy, explain the coverage details, and then provide recommendations. So we have evolved a lot over the years, from insurance policy management, gotten our insurance broker license through the MES FinTech Sandbox, distributing general insurance products from travel, pet, car insurance. A few years ago, we launched like digital endowment policies that actually grew a lot. Actually, like from what I remember, was like last year during COVID. No, actually COVID was started in 2020. 2020, like our sales grew 40 times because everyone was stuck at home and they started using digital platforms like PolicyPal. So that was also the year that we joined the big family, AMTD. So in 2020, we got acquired by AMTD Group. So ever since then, I've been working very closely with the team. And last year, we just launched in Hong Kong. So it's a AMTD PolicyPal Hong Kong app that's available for download, where basically residents of like people in Hong Kong can actually start using PolicyPal to do their insurance policy management and also inquire for financial advisory. So we partnered together with AMTD Resolution to launch this because basically AMTD Resolution has been around for 2 decades so far. So basically they bring lots of like experience as well as the know-how of the local market, where we actually bring our technology expertise. So it's a very good, like I would say, very good marriage and also like collaboration that we both bring in our own expertise to launch. And it was done during the Hong Kong FinTech Week. So a lot of like interest that like actually came in. Also during that period of time, we acquired a company that originally was based in the US, focusing on Asia market, called Value Champion. So Value Champion is basically an online platform that actually help you understand like all the different financial products out there. So they're present in Singapore, Hong Kong, India, and South Korea. So basically, Value Champion was a spin-off from Value Penguin, which is a very big fintech company from the US. So they decided to spin off Value Champion to focus on Asia market. And then like through collaboration actually from PolicyPal side, we've been working with Value Champion for a couple of years in terms of providing the expertise on like our insurance, like knowledge and also like the service. We found the opportunity to be able to actually expand our services that basically more than just like providing insurance protection needs. Now with Value Champion, we can actually do a full financial planning, because with Value Champion, we can actually advise you from loans, investment, credit cards, as well as like insurance. Further down, like I think for this year, we are actually looking into new verticals, like in terms of like expansion opportunity to actually like help consumers in the Asian market to be able to make like better decision for their financial needs.
So how does it work? You've gone from a very kind of niche product in insurtech, which was just helping people understand and manage what they already had in the insurance world. Now you're going into all these broader niches. Is insurtech still going to be the core of what PolicyPal is all about, or do you see it becoming much more broad over time?
I would say that for PolicyPal, definitely we'll still be focusing on like insurtech, because we see that there's actually a full like range of products that like consumers are looking out for in terms of their insurance needs. But you know, like end of the day, consumer, we need to look at it from a 360 point of view instead of a product point of view. So understanding how insurance companies have evolved over a period of time, that decades ago, insurance company used to operate based on like departments or product basis, that like, okay, this department focus on life insurance and that's all, they have customers there. They have the customer there, and then like the customer or travel insurance is there. So basically, that was how like products were like introduced and offered to customers. So when first PolicyPal started, we wanted to consolidate in terms of looking at customer from a 360 point of view for insurance. But as we grow, what we realize is that like as a like individual, other than just them looking at like protection needs, starting off with like low risk like investment products for endowment, they also want to diversify their financial portfolio. So that's why we expand further. But the business itself, basically PolicyPal continue to operate independently, same as like Value Champion. So there's no commingle in terms of like services, but then what we're thinking of is basically a tighter synergy, where basically like people who are using Value Champion to help themselves to understand in terms of like if they want to apply for a home loan, what else do they actually need? So many times that when you apply for a home loan, you actually need to get a mortgage insurance. So instead of like going on to another platform and or looking out for another service provider, PolicyPal can actually offer it to you in a probably a better like user experience, and also like offering certain type of like incentives for the customers.
There's so many platforms out there now, whether it's it's a Google or a Facebook kind of big tech platform, or it's the Grabs and the Gojeks of the world for ride hailing and other services, or it's gaming, all kinds of platforms. How do you go about making sure that yours is essential to people, and that they that they want to have your app on their phone, and that they go to you for other things, as opposed to you ending up just being yet another service provider that slots into somebody else's platform?
Well, I guess that like as the tech industry evolve, and also as COVID has accelerated in terms of how people look at fintech offerings, insurtech offerings, there will be growth in terms of like fintech and insurtech services on like the super app, such as like Grab, maybe like Shopee in Southeast Asia, and then in China, like WeChat offers like all the different services in one super app. But what we see is that like from the consumer standpoint is that when they are looking at products that are higher ticket value, or products where they feel that they need like in-depth expertise, they tend to look for brands that they kind of trust, especially for insurance. Is a very, very unique product, even though it's a financial services where like product where basically you're paying something that like you get that is intangible, that like you're not be seeing the value for like a while. Like for general insurance products, you don't see the value until like you file a claim. And then for life insurance product, it's your next generation. Or maybe if you're buying for investment, which like takes 5, 10, 20 years later, then you see the value. It's very different. So they tend to look for like a brand, a platform that they trust. So I would say that like for PolicyPal, over the years, in terms of like staying grounded, building like trust, providing like valuable content to the consumers, as well as very, very good partners working together with us. We managed to establish like very strong like relationship and trust with the customers, because our customers, especially when they buy like life insurance products, the average size that they pay is about 40,000 Singapore dollars. It's almost, I think, is it 200,000 Hong Kong dollars. That's for savings plan. It's the higher ticket value. But when they transact such amount, they tend to look for like platforms like ours. So I would say that like there will be of course growth in those super app, but like platforms like ours will continue to grow. I think
How do you go about like attracting, you mentioned, Val, that that insurance, a lot of these policies are very slow. You might buy something and you won't claim it for a long time. And if you're lucky, you won't claim it at all. So how do you keep people engaged? How do you build that trust? And how do you make sure that people are visiting you regularly enough that you remain in their consciousness?
Yeah, good question. So basically for PolicyPal side, I think how we have offered the service is quite different. That like when PolicyPal first launched, is basically a platform that you organize your existing policies. So people have already deposit like their existing insurance policy, their data, where we actually provide value to them before we offer or sell them any products. So they see the value in it, like receiving notifications of premiums payment, renewal, policy lapse, as well as we have included like in-game like financial quizzes to help them to understand like any new changes in terms of like their insurance policies, new health insurance implemented like from the government side, pension scheme, etc. So they get all this information, which like it keeps them engaged. On top of that, we have also gamified the flow that like you can actually go in and play like financial games. So with that, you can actually earn like points. With the points, like basically we create an ecosystem that like keep you there. So you'll feel that, yeah, it's like a year later, then I need to like renew my policy. But in between, like I do get like information value. And of course, like during pre-COVID days, like people in Asia love to travel so much, or around the world, people love to travel so much. Travel insurance is the one that keeps them very active on the app, car insurance, pet insurance. So providing an all full spectrum. So that's from PolicyPal side. I think with this new acquisition of Value Champion, I think slightly different in a way that basically there'll be people who are looking for deals, promotions for their credit cards, loans, refinancing for their housing loans and so forth. So it keeps them going back to like keep their finances updated, knowing like what they can do. Because either way, one is like they want to save money, the other way is they want to grow money. So like we provide all this for them, like on both like PolicyPal as well as like Value Champion platform.
Yeah. How do you compete against the incumbents? Obviously, you're not yourself an insurance company, so you're not competing in the sense that you're not trying to sell a policy to somebody. But the very large players also are trying to, they'll partner with outside players, or they might build their own to try to create that same kind of, let's keep the customer engaged. What's your take on just the way that you do it versus the way some of the big incumbents carriers do it? Is it quite different, or are you competing in the same way? Just compare, contrast a little bit.
I think like in this industry, or being like a platform, you are kind of frenemies with your partners. Basically, the big insurance companies are our like partners providing the products. So instead of like competing, where of course like everyone is looking for customers, we provide value in terms of like the data that we have aggregated, analyzed in terms of what like customers are looking out for. We tend to actually like collaborate together with them to look for new type of products that we can provide exclusively to PolicyPal customers. And at the same time, basically we work together with them to try to actually like educate the market. Because at the end of the day, the real competitors are actually customers who believe that they don't need like such product, like such as they don't need any insurance, and in times of need, like they will face the challenges. So like, yeah, I say that like our competitors are not really agents or like incumbents. Is really people who just refuse to accept that like they actually need to start doing their financial planning.
How do you see the evolution overall of I guess the insurtech industry in Singapore, at least? Have you seen big changes? I mean, COVID obviously has accelerated so many things across the board. And you mentioned you had some, what was it, 40x growth rate in your user base, which is fantastic. But where do you see insurtech going? Is it still sort of on the sidelines compared to the big traditional carriers, or do you see it becoming much more prominent? And what has to happen to grow this industry?
I would say that like the industry have evolved quite a bit. Like during the early days, it will be more of like the small startups trying out different solutions from chatbots, comparison side, like to maybe like small insurance products on the blockchain and so on. That like different ideas all around. But now the industry has like evolved where basically like the big tech companies are becoming fintech and insurtech. So like Grab, Shopee, even Google launched their Google Pay. I understand in the US, Google is looking into insurance as well. I haven't seen them doing that in Asia yet, but like I think the shift is basically tech companies owning the customers in terms of like their lifestyle cycle. They are looking to implement like such offerings to their daily life through their services that they offer on the big tech companies platform. So insurtech has evolved in that way, but at the same time, the big carriers are also like evolving. So the big carriers are having not just innovation team. So like couple of years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, there are a couple of insurance companies that will set up innovation team that separately from the main organization, and they try to test out solutions working with like the small startups that I talk about, that like basically everyone is coming out with different ideas. But now big insurance companies are actually investing a lot into like insurtech companies. So instead of them just trying it out, they decided to be part of like all the growth of fintech and insurtech, investing into insurtech companies, be part of the growth, because now being part of the shareholder, they can actually also like participate in it instead of like trying to grow themselves. So that's how things have evolved. But of course, it's still at a very early stage for insurtech as compared to fintech. It has evolved a lot. I guess also because the industry itself is slightly much more conservative, because insurance after all is risk management, right? And then like innovation is basically taking risks. So it's kind of like against the usual culture of like how it should be in insurance. But like I think with the regulations evolving, changing, I think Hong Kong side, I read like papers from like Hong Kong Insurance Authority has big push in terms of like innovation, like having digital insurer and so forth.
We have several now registered here. There's several. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so for Singapore wise, the regulators like MAS is actually like introducing green finance that is supporting, or ESG that is supporting like insurtech, fintech. So all these new initiative grants are helping the industry to move forward. but of course, like it requires like a lot of collaborators to come and to support in that area. And I guess like for us as a growing startup now, part of AMTD Group, the upside is basically we can tap into the expertise of AMTD in terms of the years of experience operating the insurance broker in Hong Kong, as well as the years of experience that like the Hong Kong investment banking team have in terms of like M&A strategies on how we can collaborate with more fintech, insurtech partners to actually grow together, because it's no longer being a silo player trying to just grow by yourself. It's a lot more of collaborative like approach and how we can tap into each other resources to actually 1 + 1 equals to like maybe 4 or 5 instead of like 1 + 1 equals to 2. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Where do you see as you deepen your that communication with those consumers, that conversation that you have with them, do you see going more deeply into Singapore itself, because that's where you've got a brand, people know you and trust, you talk about trust. So, or do you see with the Value Champion acquisition and the work you're doing with AMTD, with the app in Hong Kong, do you see your growth path as going broad and cross market, and how do you kind of think about that strategy?
I think our growth path will be more of like across Asia, ideally global. I guess like basically what we have learned building the company over the past 6 years in terms of like the technology, regulations, customers' needs, even though different countries have different culture as well as like regulations, there are a lot of experience or know-how that we can actually bring across to other countries. So like, of course, the direct one will be like Hong Kong market, and we're also exploring like new markets that we can potentially enter, like with collaboration together with maybe a local player.
Yeah, and because you're from Singapore, obviously, very wealthy place with a long-standing insurance industry. Do you see yourself as a natural player in similar, high income developed markets, or is there a play for you in emerging markets in ASEAN or elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, so what we have analyzed for insurtech companies, those who are growing fast, they tend to focus on a certain area. So if let's say you choose to focus on the emerging markets, like they will actually grow from say Indonesia to maybe Vietnam and so forth, because they are kind of similar in terms of like the product offerings and also like the customer's demand. For us, basically, our expertise and as well as like in terms of like what we offer, we prefer to actually like target markets that are maybe I would say that are much more matured. So like Singapore, Hong Kong are very similar, and there are also of course countries across the world that we are exploring, but at the moment right now is still in early stage discussion with those companies. At a later stage we can actually share more. So to answer your questions is that like I think we'll choose to focus on a strategy to target like markets that are kind of similar to Singapore and Hong Kong.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to actually, in addition to being a founder and CEO of an insurtech that's growing fast, you've also written a memoir about being not just a founder, but also a female founder in Singapore. Had a marvelous title. How that came out right before the pandemic, I think. So tell us a little bit about the book, the feedback you've gotten, and maybe if you've got some, as a founder and an entrepreneur, some lessons that you've onboarded since writing that book.
It's been like, I'll say very rewarding to hear people writing in to me on LinkedIn, because I left my contact there like on the book. So there are people who actually started their companies. So a few of them wrote to me on LinkedIn, and they happen to be female, saying that like they read the book, they actually understand in terms of like before you start the company, what you need to look at. So I wrote it based on my experience. Everyone has different experience. Why I decided to like actually document down, because while building the company, I realized that like the early stage was really very difficult for me to find out like what I have to do. I had no idea, like I have to trial and error. Other than that is that after a while, people started approaching me asking, oh, so how do I actually register the company? How do I actually like find co-founders as well as engineers? Other than that is, or what is like building minimum viable product? Like when do I launch? So all this basically documented in the book, because I wanted to like just let like people out there to know how is it like for my experience. Of course, everyone could be doing it differently, but like the feedback is that like it helped them to actually have an overview of like how it is to get started. But like what I've learned after writing the book is that I feel the more that you share in terms of your experience, your expertise, as long as you create value to people around you, to the society, in return they actually will just write in, or like they will actually support you in many other ways. So when I first wrote the book, I didn't have any like plans on like how is it going to be. More of like, okay, since a lot of people are asking, let me just like share it with them. Yeah.
That's great. Val, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. Congratulations on the success of PolicyPal so far, and look forward to reading your next chapter.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, have a good day.